Today, we're going to continue our investigation on multiplying decimals. Yesterday, I taught you how to multiply a decimal times a whole number. Today, we're going to start looking at how to multiply a decimal by a decimal. And we're going to look at how to draw pictures of it today so that you have an idea of what you're actually doing, right? Any monkey can just multiply two numbers together, but a human being can actually understand why and what's going on, all right? So we're going to start by looking at the Snickers bar. Now, the first thing you have to understand when you multiply decimals is you're going to end up with a much smaller answer. Why? Because you're taking a part of a part, a piece of a piece. In this case, we got 5/10 times 2/10. So in reality, what we're doing is we're looking at what is 2/10 of 5/10. What's this little piece of this little piece? All right. So let's say I'm walking around and I've got a Snickers bar and I already ate half of it, right? I only have 5/10 left. So 5/10 is half, right? So if I were to split this whole thing into 10 equal pieces, 5/10, oops, 5/10 would look, oh, come on, give me the highlighter. There we go. 5/10 would look like this. This is 5/10, right? So I'm going to get rid of this part of the Snickers bar because I already ate it, right? So I've got 5/10. And Matthew Douglas comes around and he's like, "Hey, Mr. R, can I have a bite of that Snickers bar?" And obviously, this is not what would happen in COVID times, but I'm like, "Hey, sure, Matthew, why don't I give you 2/10 of what I've got left?" All right. So if this is what I have, this is 5/10 of what I've got. Well, if I split the rest of it into 10 equal parts, well, 2/10 would probably look like this, right? So here's 2/10 of 5/10, right? Right here. 2/10 of the 5/10. So I took a piece of a piece. And so what am I left with? I'm left with a really small piece, right? My answer is going to be less than either of these. All right, do you understand that? A piece of a piece, part of a part. That's what we're doing when we multiply decimals. So let's look at how we would model this. All right, so here, this is what your classwork section is going to look like. You're going to use two different colors to find the answer to the multiplication problem. All right, so the first thing we need to do is we need to shade in 5/10. Remember, each of these columns is 1/10. So let's shade in 5/10. So there's 1/10. I'll shade it in a little more. 1/10, 2/10, 3/10. Remember, the whole column is a tenth. So here's 3/10, 4/10, and one more is going to be 5/10. Now you'll notice I'm shading it a little more than I did previously. I'm not just making a line. I want to shade it in a little more today, okay? So there's 5/10. Now, what am I going to do that 5/10? I'm multiplying it by 2/10. So I did the 5/10 vertically, right? I'll draw a little arrow in there. I'm going to do the 2/10 in a different color. So I'm going to do it in red. And I'm going to draw the 2/10 horizontally. So I'm going to shade in 2/10 like this. So there's 1/10 and 2/10. All right. So there's 5/10 times 2/10. Now what's my answer? Well, my answer is the part that's overlapping, right? The piece of a piece. This is my answer. All right, so how do I count that up? Well, these are hundredths, right? Each little box is a hundredth. So how many hundredths do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 10 hundredths or 1/10. Okay, so I could write it either way. So my answer is going to be 1/10 or 10 hundredths. Okay, so you're going to shade going vertically on the first one, going horizontally on the second one, and your overlap is your answer. All right, let's try another one. Here I've got 8/10 times 5/10. So again, I'm going to shade vertically, right, for the 8/10. So I'm going to pause this and do that so you don't have to watch me shade it again. So I just shaded in 8/10, right? 8 vertical columns. And now I'm going to shade in 5/10, but I'm going to go horizontally, right, the other way. So there's 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, and 5/10. And how do I find my answer? Remember, my answer is, I'll do a different color so it pops more. The answer is the overlapped boxes, right? So all these is my answer, right? So how do I find my answer? I just count up my hundredths. How many hundredths do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. So 40 hundredths is my answer, and I can write that 2 ways, right? There's 40 hundredths, and there's 4/10. They're the same thing, right? Okay, so shaded in vertically, shaded in horizontally, count what you have overlapping. All right, go ahead and try the problem of the day in the stream.